Jake Harris crouched behind the twisted wreckage of a downed shuttle, sweat dripping down his dirt-streaked face. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burning metal and the distant roar of alien creatures. He tightened his grip on the makeshift spear, its crude metal tip reflecting the planet's blood-red sunlight. "Move! Now!" he barked, his voice raw from hours of shouting orders. Behind him, a small group of survivors scrambled over the debris, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. Among them was Lia, a tech-savvy scientist with a knack for improvisation, and Mark, a fellow former Marine whose loyalty to Jake was unwavering. The trio had become an unlikely team in the harsh environment of Xenon 4. "We're clear," Lia panted, her eyes scanning the desolate landscape for any signs of movement. "For now." Jake nodded, his mind racing. The Galactic Council had sent them here on a reconnaissance mission, but it had quickly turned into a fight for survival. The planet, once thought to be uninhabited, was crawling with hostile alien life forms, and their high-tech equipment had proven useless against the relentless attacks. "Stay low and keep moving," Jake ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. "We need to find shelter before nightfall." As they made their way through the shattered remnants of what appeared to be an ancient alien city, Jake's thoughts drifted to the Galactic Council. They had dismissed him as a fool, a relic of a bygone era. His survival skills, honed through years of rigorous training and real-world experience, were deemed primitive and ineffective in the face of advanced technology. But now, in the midst of chaos, it was those very skills that kept them alive. "Hold up," Mark whispered, raising a hand. "Something's not right." Jake froze, listening intently. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant crackle of flames. His instincts screamed at him, warning of imminent danger. "Ambush!" he shouted, just as a group of alien creatures emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Jake fought with a ferocity born of desperation, his spear thrusting and slashing with deadly precision. Lia and Mark held their own, using whatever they could find as weapons. Despite their efforts, the aliens pressed on, relentless and unforgiving. "We can't hold them off forever," Lia cried, her voice trembling. Jake's mind raced, searching for a solution. Then he saw it, a narrow passageway leading into the depths of the alien city. "There! Move!" They bolted for the passage, barely escaping the clutches of their attackers. As they stumbled into the dark, Jake felt a glimmer of hope. This city held secrets, ancient technology that might be their salvation. But it also held danger, and they would need every ounce of strength and cunning to survive. "We're not out of this yet," Jake muttered, his resolve hardening. "But we'll make it. We have to." As they ventured deeper into the unknown, the weight of their mission pressed heavily on Jake's shoulders. The Galactic Council might see him as a fool, but he would prove them wrong. He had to, for the sake of his team and the survival of the galaxy. Jake Harris squinted into the darkness, his heart pounding in his chest. The narrow passageway before them seemed to stretch endlessly, its walls etched with alien symbols that glowed faintly. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. They had escaped the immediate danger, but the unknown loomed large ahead. "Keep close," Jake whispered, his voice barely audible. "We don't know what's waiting for us down there." Lia nodded, her face illuminated by the eerie glow of the symbols. "This place, it's ancient. I've never seen anything like it." Mark, bringing up the rear, gripped his makeshift weapon tightly. "Let's hope it's deserted." As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, the silence more oppressive. Every footfall echoed ominously, heightening their sense of vulnerability. Jake's mind raced with possibilities. What kind of technology could be hidden in such a place? And would it be enough to turn the tide against the invaders? Suddenly, a low hum reverberated through the passage, growing louder with each step. The walls vibrated, and the symbols pulsed with an intensity that made Jake's skin crawl. He raised a hand, signaling the others to stop. "Do you hear that?" he asked, his voice tense. Lia nodded, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. "It's coming from up ahead." Cautiously they moved forward, the hum intensifying until it was almost deafening. The passage opened into a vast chamber, dominated by a towering structure that seemed to defy logic. It pulsed with a rhythm, like a giant, mechanical heart. "This must be it," Jake muttered, awe and dread mingling in his voice. "The ancient technology." As they approached, the structure's surface rippled, revealing an array of controls and displays. Leah stepped forward, her fingers hovering over the alien interface. "I think I can decipher this," she said, determination replacing her earlier fear. Jake watched as Leah worked, her fingers dancing across the controls. The chamber began to hum with energy, and the structure responded to her touch, revealing more of its secrets. Mark stood guard, his eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of movement. "Got it!" Leah exclaimed, a smile breaking through her concentration. "This technology, it's incredible. It can create a force field strong enough to repel the invaders." Jake felt a surge of hope. "Can you activate it?" Leah nodded, her confidence growing. "Yes, but it will take time. We need to stay here and protect this chamber until I can get it fully operational." Just as she spoke, the ground shook violently. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling, and a deep, guttural roar echoed through the passage they had just traversed. "They're coming," Mark said grimly, readying his weapon. Jake's jaw tightened. "Leah, you focus on the technology. Mark and I will hold them off." As the first wave of alien attackers burst into the chamber, Jake and Mark met them head-on. The battle was fierce, every moment a struggle for survival. But Jake fought with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that their only hope lay in Leah's success. The chamber's energy pulsed around them, the symbols on the walls glowing brighter with each passing second. Leah worked tirelessly, her face a mask of concentration. "We're almost there," she shouted over the din of battle. "Just a little longer." Jake's muscles burned with exertion, but he pushed through the pain, his determination unyielding. He glanced at Leah, seeing the force field beginning to take shape, a shimmering barrier that held the promise of salvation. "Hang on!" he yelled, his voice a mix of command and encouragement. "We've got this!" The force field shimmered into existence, casting a radiant glow over the chamber. Jake Harris wiped sweat from his brow, his muscles aching from the battle. He glanced at Leah, who was still at the controls, her face illuminated by the alien interface. Mark stood guard, his eyes scanning the passage for any signs of a new threat. "We did it," Leah said, her voice filled with relief. "The force field is up. It should keep the aliens at bay." Jake nodded, his mind already racing ahead. "This is just the beginning. We need to figure out how to use this technology to repel the invaders across the galaxy." Before Leah could respond, a loud clanging echoed through the chamber. The sound of metal on metal, growing louder and more frantic. Jake's heart skipped a beat. "What now?" Mark's eyes widened in alarm. "Someone's trying to break through the force field." A shadowy figure emerged from the passage, clad in the uniform of a Galactic Council member. Jake's blood ran cold as recognition set in. It was Counselor Drex, the most vocal critic of Jake's survival tactics. But there was something off about him, a sinister gleam in his eyes. "Drex?" Jake called out, his voice laced with suspicion. "What are you doing here?" Drex sneered, his expression twisted with malice. "I've come to finish what I started, Harris. The Council should have listened to me. Your primitive ways are a threat to our superiority." Leah's eyes widened in shock. You're the saboteur?" Drex laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Yes, and you fools played right into my hands. The invaders were never our true enemy. They were merely a distraction." Jake's grip tightened on his weapon. "What are you talking about?" Drex stepped forward, his voice dripping with contempt. "The real threat is far greater. An ancient entity, more powerful than you can imagine. And thanks to your meddling, it's now awake." A chill ran down Jake's spine. The ancient technology, the force field, it was all connected. "You're working with this entity?" Drex's eyes gleamed with madness. "I am its emissary. And you, Harris, will be the first to fall." Without warning, Drex lunged at Jake, a hidden blade glinting in his hand. Jake sidestepped, his survival instincts kicking in. The chamber erupted into chaos as the two men clashed, their movements a blur of desperation and fury. "Leah, get out of here!" Jake shouted, his voice strained. "Warn the others!" But Leah stood her ground, her eyes blazing with determination. "No, Jake. We're in this together." Mark joined the fray, his weapon clashing with Drex's blade. The chamber pulsed with energy, the force field flickering as the battle raged on. Jake fought with everything he had, his mind a whirlwind of fear and resolve. "You're a fool, Harris," Drex hissed, his face contorted with rage. "You can't stop what's coming." Jake's eyes narrowed. "Maybe not alone. But together we can." With a final, desperate thrust, Jake disarmed Drex, sending the blade clattering to the ground. Mark seized the opportunity, subduing the traitorous counselor with a swift, decisive move. Leah rushed to the controls, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "I've activated the beacon. Reinforcements should be on their way." Jake nodded, his chest heaving with exertion. "Good. We need to prepare for the real battle." As they secured Drex and regrouped, the weight of their mission pressed heavily on their shoulders. The true enemy was awakening, and the galaxy's fate hung in the balance. But for now, they had a chance, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. "We'll stop this, Jake," Leah said, her voice steady. "Together." Jake's resolve hardened. "Yes, we will. No matter what it takes." A tremor shook the chamber, knocking Jake Harris off balance. He caught himself against the alien console, his eyes locking onto the pulsating symbols that had suddenly intensified in brightness. The ground beneath them rumbled, a foreboding sign that something monumental was happening. "Leah, what's going on?" Jake shouted, trying to steady himself. Leah's fingers flew over the controls, her expression a mix of fear and determination. The entity Drex spoke of, "It's waking up. The ancient technology must have triggered it." Mark stood guard, his weapon at the ready. "We need to move now. If Drex was telling the truth, this whole place could come down on us." The force field that had once offered protection now felt like a cage. Jake's mind raced, searching for a way to turn this disaster into an opportunity. "Leah, can you use the technology to our advantage? Maybe we can contain the entity or slow it down." "I'm trying," Leah replied, her voice tense. "But this system is incredibly complex. I need more time." The tremors grew stronger, each one more violent than the last. The alien symbols on the wall seemed to dance in a frenzied rhythm, their light casting eerie shadows that flickered across the chamber. "We don't have time," Mark yelled over the cacophony. "We need to get out of here." Jake made a split-second decision. "Leah, you stay here and do what you can. Mark and I will hold off whatever's coming." Leah looked at him, fear and resolve in her eyes. "Be careful, Jake." He nodded, gripping his weapon tightly. "Always." Jake and Mark moved towards the entrance, their every step accompanied by the growing intensity of the tremors. As they reached the threshold, a blinding light filled the passage, followed by an ear-piercing roar that shook them to their core. A colossal figure emerged from the light, its form both alien and terrifying. The entity was a swirling mass of energy and darkness, its presence overwhelming. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, but he stood his ground, determined to protect Leah and give her the time she needed. "Mark, flank it. We need to draw its attention away from the chamber," Jake ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. Mark nodded and moved swiftly, his weapon blazing as he fired at the entity. The creature roared in response, turning its attention towards him. Jake seized the opportunity, launching an attack from the opposite side. The battle was intense, each strike and counterstrike filled with desperation and determination. "Leah, how's it going?" Jake called out, dodging a powerful swipe from the entity. "I'm close," Leah shouted back, her voice strained. "Just a few more seconds." The entity's attacks grew more ferocious, its anger palpable. Jake and Mark fought valiantly, but they were clearly outmatched. Every moment felt like an eternity, the outcome uncertain. Finally, Leah's voice rang out with triumph. I've done it! The containment field is activating! A brilliant light enveloped the chamber, and the entity let out a deafening roar as it was pulled towards the ancient technology. The ground quaked violently, and the alien symbols blazed with intense light. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the chaos subsided. The entity was gone, contained within the ancient machinery. Jake collapsed to his knees, his body trembling with exhaustion. Mark leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Leah rushed over, her face a mix of relief and concern. Are you both okay? She asked, helping Jake to his feet. We're alive, Jake said, a weary smile on his face. Thanks to you. Leah's eyes shone with determination. This isn't over. We need to warn the galaxy about this entity and prepare for the battles to come. Jake nodded, his resolve hardening once more. You're right. This was just the beginning. But whatever comes next, we'll face it together.